What's up, Spider Nerds? Welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast for the week of January 25th, 2014. I am your host, Jonathan Weber, a.k.a. Spider Nerd, the webmaster of the site. And joining me today for the panel is Mr. Thomas Patterson.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Thomas?
All right. I went to go see Jack Ryan today.
I have no idea who that is.
It's like a CIA spy movie. It's actually pretty good.
Oh, I thought Jack Ryan was like an actual person. I was like, who the hell is Jack Ryan?
Nah, the actual full name is Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit. It's a pretty good movie. Stars Kirk.
Yes.
That was a joke. He plays Kirk in the Star Trek reboot. Chris Pine? No? Alright, whatever.
Oh, whatever. I've just completely ruined Thomas's joke. But also today for the panel we have Mr. James Markin.
Hey guys, what's up?
Recovering from a cold, I understand, aren't you, James?
Yeah.
Winter weather sucks. Yeah, winter weather is not good. Funny story about that. My dad, when he was leaving for work this morning, he got stuck in our driveway not once but twice. It was actually quite entertaining because he had to dig himself out, which was quite funny to watch. Of course, I didn't help him because that'd be a good person. You know, that'd be something a good person would do, and I'm not a good person. I'm just kidding. I helped him.
No. We understood that you're not a good person. It's all good.
No, don't worry. I helped him, so I am a
right.
I am a somewhat decent
Yeah. Sure.
I'm a somewhat decent person.
Yeah. We don't believe you.
Yes.
You are a dirty, filthy liar.
Well, that's better than a dirty, filthy, and stupid liar.
Well, I didn't want to go that far, but sure.
Yes, I was just that was not funny at all. That joke fell so flat. But yes. So, what are we talking about today on this podcast? Because we really don't have much to do in the way of introductions. Well, first of all, I just want to talk about this stupid winter weather is just absolute bullshit.
Yeah, I live in Colorado, and so it's actually not that bad. Actually, it's 60 degrees outside today, and there's no snow.
Oh, you can go fuck yourself. It is -2 outside my window right now.
I don't want to think about how cold it is here.
I hate you so much right now.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. It's -2 outside my window right now. That's not even funny. And James lives up in Wisconsin or whatever, so he's probably in the negative teens right now.
Something like that, probably.
Yeah, probably with wind chill, probably in the negative 20s or whatever.
Not kidding you. When I was shoveling, the wind literally sucked your breath out. It was so cold.
Oh, yeah, I've had that happen before. It's damn cold. It is damn cold outside.
I haven't had that since 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's been rather relatively warm here.
I like winter normally, but when it gets this cold, it's just...
I like winter when it starts in December, and then as soon as New Year's passes, I hate winter.
I don't hate winter. I like winter because I like to look at snow, but I don't like to shovel snow or move snow or do anything about that.
You like everything about snow except for the fact that it makes you do work.
Yep, pretty much. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much my outlook on life too. Nah, just kidding.
I like life. I just don't like when it makes me do work.
All right. So what are we talking about today? Well, we've got a few news topics to talk about today, and
very few.
Yeah, very few. There's not much there. This podcast. I mean, knowing us, we're gonna make this a 2-hour show, but I guarantee you, this podcast is probably not gonna be longer than 45 minutes. But now that I've said that, it's probably gonna be 2 hours.
2 hours. Good work, guys.
We'll find some way to go off track on a 15-minute tangent, I'm sure of it. But our first news topic of the day, our first Spider News topic, is that Shailene Woodley is unsure about the possibility of her returning for The Amazing Spider-Man 3. In an interview with MTV News, she stated that with the Divergent franchise being picked up for 2 more movies, she, quote-unquote, doesn't know how she could keep her sanity with 2 big action films in 1 year. So, the possibility is out there that they may have to recast MJ for the 3rd Amazing Spider-Man movie. So, personally, my thoughts on this news, I'm actually kind of saddened by this because I actually was kind of fond of the idea of Shailene Woodley. I thought she was a pretty girl. I thought she was, I haven't seen her in anything, so I don't know what kind of actress she is. But I was just willing to give her a chance and see what she could do on screen. And ultimately, I was just open to the idea of her, so I'm actually kind of disappointed that she may not be in The Amazing Spider-Man 3. But, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I guess I'll go then. Pretty much, this rumor has been going on with her for a while now, since she got cut out of 2. That it might have been disputes because she had other movies and other things with her time. And that's why she was cut out of 2, because she wouldn't be in 3 and 4. And so if that's true, and this is her pretty much saying it without really saying it, because the movie's coming out or something, she can't or something, then it's kind of sad, because I thought she could play a really good MJ. But at the same time, the casting they have done for these movies so far has been really good. So I'm sure if they have to go back in and cast MJ, they'll find somebody just as good or maybe even better for the role.
I'm really sad about this news, actually. I was really hoping that she'd be back, and I mean, there's obviously still the possibility that she will be back, but I just don't like this uncertainty that she might not be back, because I actually did like the idea of her. I didn't really at first, but I was never one of those people that were like, she's not hot enough, she doesn't have enough breasts, or whatever that they were saying about her to play MJ. I watched her in The Spectacular Now with Miles Teller, who is rumored to play Mr. Fantastic in the Fantastic Four reboot. I think she did really well in that movie. She's certainly got great acting chops. She certainly could pull off like basically any kind of role, I think. And this news actually kind of disappoints me that she might not be back, but I really hope that she does end up coming back for the movie.
Yeah, it really is a shame that she may not be in The Amazing Spider-Man 3, because I mean, I personally always liked the idea of her as Mary Jane up, way back in October of 2012 when it was first rumored that she was being cast. I was like, "Oh, I like that girl. She looks the part. She seems like she could be a good MJ." And I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but Kirsten Dunst actually came out in a statement and said that she was in full support of Shailene playing Mary Jane. So, I think it's actually kind of a shame that she may not actually end up getting the role. But at the same time, I am kind of happy for her because she's getting, she's going to be in this huge Divergent franchise, which I don't know anything about this little franchise here. I don't really know anything about it, so I probably, it's no skin off my back that she's going to be in those. But it's good that she's at least going to be in these, in these high budget movies.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that she deserves to be able to, be this called on. Like, I mean, at least it's not because she's too ugly or whatever, like all the fans were saying. It's because she's too busy, and it's good that her career is getting so bloated that it's definitely not a bad situation for her at all, I don't think, because it's basically her saying that I might be too busy to do it, and that's never a bad thing for an actor or an actress, to be too busy to do something. I just really hope that she can find it in her schedule to come back as Mary Jane for The Amazing Spider-Man 3. That's just my personal opinion on it. So,
isn't she only like 21? So she's
21.
Yeah, she's doing fairly well for herself so far.
Yeah, she's younger than me, and she's already been in a couple blockbusters. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, she's definitely, she must have a good agent or whatever, because she's got herself some pretty damn good roles here.
Yeah, I would say so. She's a little bit older than me, like 5 years older than me, but I really like her. I think she's a great actress, and I really hope that she returns to play Mary Jane because I think that more than anything, what we need is not so much another Megan Fox type actress playing Mary Jane. We need someone who has the acting chops to be able to pull off certain emotion, and also be, I think she's hot. So I
Did you
never
just
thought that
compare
was an issue.
Kirsten Dunst to Megan Fox?
No, I never said that. I was just saying that like a lot of people were actually kind of calling for a Megan Fox type casting for this movie.
Are you serious?
That's what they said. They're like, I would prefer like someone who's hot and can't act than to someone who can act but is freaking ugly. Is like quote unquote what they said.
Well, that's so ironic because one of Mary Jane's professions is acting. So to cast an actress in a movie playing a person who is probably going to be an actress, you want somebody who can't act just because she's hot to look at.
I guess the whole point is that they just want eye candy, and I honestly think that Woodley's hot enough where I can get that, but I can also get someone who can actually act. And she is a really great actress. I would recommend picking up The Spectacular now because it's actually out on DVD now. It is a great film, and it really demonstrates how great she is at acting. And I think that it would be a real shame if someone else got cast that had less of a talent than she did.
You know what I've been saying this ever since Amazing Spider-Man 1. We need someone like Emma Stone to play Mary Jane. And I don't mean exactly Emma Stone, like legitimately Emma Stone, but
Double cast.
But we need someone who has acting ability but is also gorgeous. That is Emma Stone. We need someone like that to play Mary Jane.
And I thought Shailene Woodley filled that out very well.
That's what made me feel like when the first one happened, when it got announced that Emma Stone was playing the girlfriend. They didn't say who, but they said the girlfriend. And you look at her, okay, she has red hair, and her personality is kind of similar to Mary Jane, and she's attractive and a good actress. I'm like, oh, they finally did some good casting for Mary Jane, because I didn't really like how they portrayed her with Kirsten Dunst. I thought she was okay, but I didn't think that the character was anything to write home about. So I feel like, oh, they did some really great casting for the new Mary Jane. And then like a week later, it got out she's Gwen. I'm like, she's Gwen?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember actually, I was watching an interview with Greg Weisman, who'd worked on the Spectacular Spider-Man, and he talked about how he loved the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but the way they portrayed Mary Jane was actually more like Gwen Stacy, and the way they portrayed Gwen Stacy was actually more like Mary Jane. And looking at the movies again, he is completely accurate. They portrayed them completely different. So it was almost like Mary Jane was supposed to be Gwen anyway. They might as well have just gone with Gwen. And this movie just seems to be shamelessly going with Gwen, which is good. I'm just worried about Emma Stone's fate in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because all signs kind of point to her dying.
And no one wants that. Why?
Well, for the Raimi, what you just said, the reasoning for that, what I believe, is because one of the people on one of the DVDs, either Spider-Man 1 or 2, on one of the special features, during a documentary was talking about the casting and stuff like that for the movies. And they said when they made Mary Jane for this movie, they wanted to put a little bit of something from each love interest and then Peter Parker into her, and they combined Gwen Stacy with Mary Jane and some of those elements. So I feel like some of the elements of Mary Jane that were lost when they put Gwen stuff in her were when they did the casting for the first one. So when they got to 3, some of the stuff that Mary Jane had left over, they just threw that in the Gwen character. That way it wasn't a complete clone, basically. That's what my feelings were always like. They had to add something. It's like, okay, we don't have Mary Jane being a model. Well, she is a model, but we don't got her being like a fashion model. Gwen's that. Yeah, and that's how Eddie Brock plays into this movie there. Oh, we got an idea.
I always got the impression that Raimi's Gwen Stacy was really stupid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a blatant fact. I'm pretty sure that was heavily implied.
And so I don't really feel like that went with Gwen Stacy, because in the comics she was always, very smart. And so I'm glad that we're finally getting like an actual representation of that love interest. And anyone who says that Gwen Stacy appears too perfect in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I would like to point you to the actual comics where Gwen Stacy was basically the perfect girl for him and always was. And that's the reason they killed her, because the only way that the relationship would have ended otherwise is as the I can't remember his name who wrote it, but he said that
Gary
the only
Conway?
the only other way for it to end was marriage, and they didn't want Spider-Man to get married.
Yeah, what
So
did they do 15 years later?
Yeah, because
Well, they tossed her off a bridge, and kill her that way.
yeah, 'cause in the comics, their first date was to some kind of nuclear science experiment. And even when Peter even asks her, he's like, "What? I didn't even think that was your kind of thing." And her line is something. It's cheesy because it's got '60s hip, dialogue and groovy and stuff in there.
Yep.
But she's basically what she's saying is, Peter, I'm in your science class and I'm getting better grades than you are. So why wouldn't I want to go to the science thing with you?
Yeah, those two. I mean, I've read all of those old issues, and I've always said that the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy is definitely one that, it's one to remember. It really is, because
And they definitely emulated that in The Amazing Spider-Man. I'd like to point out that their chemistry is very good, too, because Peter was talking to Gwen, and she was all like, he's second in his class, and the whole second in his class statement. I really thought that was a very good demonstration of how good The Amazing Spider-Man was at adapting the source material.
he's second in his class. Second. Yeah. You sure about that? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I love pretty much everything about the Amazing Spider-Man, so there's no surprise there. But yeah. So final thoughts on Shailene Woodley. It's a shame that she may not be in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, but the best of luck to her. I think I can say that for all of us. Best of luck to her.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really hope that her career goes far, as she is a great actress, and even if she's not in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, obviously best of luck to her, but I really, really, really hope she comes back for the Amazing Spider-Man 3. And they're releasing Divergent every year, so Divergent will actually come out 3 months in 2016 before the Amazing Spider-Man 3, which means the filming schedule would end Divergent right before the Amazing Spider-Man 3 starts. So, well, actually, they shoot in October next year. So Shailene Woodley probably could swing it in her schedule to go and do that. I just really hope that she finds it in her time to go do that and, do that. So.
All right, well, moving off of that topic, we've got a little bit of video game news here. We got an official trailer for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, and Thomas was actually the one who provided me with this trailer because he posted it on CBR. But basically, a basic rundown of the trailer, Kraven is apparently going to be like a mentor to Spider-Man, apparently, and he's trying to help him become the ultimate hunter. And you see a little bit of Electro, but not very much of him. You just get a little glimpse of him at the end. We get a basic idea of what the plot of this game is going to be, but ultimately we don't get too much. So James, we'll start with you. I don't know if you had a chance to see this trailer, but
Yeah, I watched it.
yeah, what did you think of it?
I think it's pretty good. I like what they're doing with the video games. I love all the Spider-Man video games pretty much, maybe besides one or two of them. And I like what I'm seeing so far. This looks like this could be a really great Spider-Man game. I love it that a different twist that in all the versions of Spider-Man I have never seen Kraven the teacher for Peter Parker, teaching him how to hunt the villains and Uncle Ben's killers. So I think that's a really cool twist. And probably, obviously, the surprise is he's going to be the final boss or something, and it's going to be a play on Kraven's last hunt. And I think it's really cool what we've seen so far, because it's not much gameplay. It's most, I think, cutscenes we see in the trailer. So it's not much I can go off on an actual, graphics and game footage. So, but from what I can tell, it looks really good. My only complaint is I hope that this means that it's branching off with in-continuity kind of game stuff. Because I always thought with the movies they should do that with the video games, is that you should put the characters that you know you're not going to get to in a movie because you don't think that they're interesting enough for a whole movie or whatever. You can throw them in the video game and have that take place, not in between the scenes necessarily, but it can be after the movie or before the movie. And then you throw in characters that way that you own the property to. That way they're in the universe, but they're not in the movies. And I think that this could be a really great way of doing that with Kraven if you never get to him in a movie. You can just put him in the game and make a game out of it in the same universe.
Well, with me, they actually did confirm that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game is actually going to be in its own universe, separate from the movie universe. That it takes place after their Amazing Spider-Man game, and that this is going to be basically their universe going forward. And they would adapt the Amazing Spider-Man 2 events into their universe, but at the same time come up with their own game, which I actually think is a better idea. To basically allow the game to actually be its own game and be its own thing, and not have to deal with the movie's fallout or anything, just be its own thing, which is a really strong thing that was with the Batman Arkham games, was that it didn't have to depend on the movies, is that it could be its own thing. And so I'm really hoping that that allows Beanox to actually develop the game that they want to make and the story that they want to do, instead of having to, be relegated to, oh, you only get B-list characters. You can actually bring in Carnage. Actually, if anyone notices that all the bodies that they showed has CK over it, the initials of Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy.
Okay, however you pronounce his name, I don't care. Tomato, tomato, anyway. So it seems like Cassidy is actually going to be the one who kills Uncle Ben, because as we remember in the comics, Cletus Cassidy actually writes his initials in his own blood, or actually writes Carnage in his own blood over all the people he kills. So Spider-Man's tracking down Cassidy, and that could actually lead to Carnage in the game, which I would think would be really interesting, on top of getting probably Green Goblin and Electro in the game, just to basically tie into the movie. I don't know. This definitely looks interesting. The graphics look really good, and this is for last generation systems. So the next generation systems are probably going to have even better graphics, better processing power, and all that other stuff. And the city definitely looks bigger if you look at it from where Spider-Man is on in the beginning of the trailer. So I'm really hoping for really good things with this game. I hope it's the definitive Spider-Man game, and it looks good so far.
I have to say, because I saw the original teaser trailer, like the 40-second thing that they put out. It was
for New York Comic-Con. Yeah,
it was about 3 months ago, and I remember I really didn't like that trailer because I didn't think the graphics were very good. The graphics in this trailer look a hell of a lot better. It's like they've upped their game with this. They've made it look absolutely fantastic. If anything, this game is going to be very appealing visually. But the thing is, I'm not much of a gamer, so I'm probably not going to pick this game up. I mean, I may if I have, a spare however much money it's going to be, and probably $50. If I have a spare $50 lying around, I might pick it up. But ultimately, I mean, I do think it looks good. It looks like an interesting story. I'll definitely be intrigued to read about it, but I probably won't play it. But personally for me, there's nothing really from this trailer that's saying they aren't going about concocting this game in the right way. So to me, this is a positive. I'm a little bit more in favor of this game now.
I'm a huge gamer, and I'm actually going to. This is actually one of the things that I'm actually going to start posting to my video game channel when I make it. So, this is going to be great. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to do that kind of stuff. And I'm really looking forward to playing this game. I really am. So, it's definitely a positive for me.
Yeah, I love all the Spider-Man games, and so I'm probably going to pick this one up too and just enjoy the hell out of it, because it takes a lot to make a bad Spider-Man game for me that I don't enjoy. Friend or Foe, that one. It's like the only one I could think of that I did not like. Every other one, going back to the old PlayStation 1 game, were always great in my memories and my mind and stuff like that. So hopefully this one can live up to all the other Spider-Man games.
Oh my gosh, I haven't played Spider-Man Friend or Foe in years.
I remember playing that game. I actually thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. But again, I played it when I was like 9. So
I played it when I was 11. Yeah.
So I mean, my judgment was not.
I played it when I was 17.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See.
There you go. See, our judgment wasn't as good as yours was at the time. So
Yeah, I was just playing with my brothers, and I thought it was a fun Spider-Man game to play with my brothers. So
yeah. But
True story. I bought the game, and like a day later, I went to like it's not called Blockbuster. It's a different place, but it's a movie store. It's Planet Hollywood, and it had like a built into it game store, and you could sell your old games. Literally, the next day, I went back and I sold it as a used game for half the price, and I felt like I was ripping them off.
oh jeez.
you must have really not liked that game, then.
Wow, that must have been really, really bad. Oh, wow. I haven't played it in forever. I'll probably have to go back to it just to see how bad it is.
Yeah, but I don't even. My Wii doesn't even work anymore, and that's the system I got it on. So
I got it on the Wii too, but my Wii still works because I never used it. So
I legitimately. I know where mine is, but it isn't plugged in, and I don't know how to plug it in because I have to ask my dad to do that. But whatever. Because it's like you should see the way our TV is set up. It's insane. Like literally, I can't do anything without asking him first because it's like I don't know what to do.
it's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. All right. So final thoughts on this trailer. We're looking forward to it. We think it's going to be a good game. We think it's going to be a good game. All right, and Thomas, this last news topic is going to be all you, Ultimate Spider-Man number 200 to lead Ultimate Universe Phase 4.
Yeah, so basically the Ultimate Universe has been through 3 relaunches this far, and every time it seems like every time they do a relaunch, they're basically like, you know what, this killed this universe? Oh yeah, killing all those characters. You know what we're going to do to fix it? Kill more characters. And so it appears that with the all-new Ultimates, they're killing off Captain America and making it a teenage team led by Miles Morales. But it appears that Ultimate Spider-Man number 200 is coming out as part of this relaunch, along with Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man, the all-new Ultimates, and Ultimate FF, which is Future Foundation, I'm guessing. What I find interesting is that they changed the title for the Ultimate Spider-Man series to Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man, which seems like an odd choice given the fact that, you know, people are going to come from the movie looking for a Spider-Man thing, and by distinguishing it to Miles Morales, they're only harming those potential sales. However, Ultimate Spider-Man number 200 is supposed to feature, I guess, Peter Parker a little bit, and they say that there's supposed to be some weird ending at the end that's going to be really shocking. So we'll see how everything works out. Fingers crossed for Peter Parker clone or something to come back.
A big shocker in the issue. I'm sorry, did Dan Slott write this solicitation?
It's definitely possible.
No, if he wrote it, it would end with, and you're going to hate me for this, like you hated me like you didn't the last issue, then I'm going to make you hate me even more with this issue, and then the issue after that, you're going to hate me.
It sounds like the solicitations for Death of Spider-Man and Spider-Man number 700.
Yeah, it's...
And Superior 9.
And Superior 14 and 20.
And they hate us for this.
All this, so basically they're just doing this big 200th issue that's going to pretty much lead into the 4th phase of the Ultimate Universe. I don't know about anyone else, but I do actually plan to pick up Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man because I'm really trying to get into that character. Because
yeah, I agree. I'm gonna pick it up mostly because I feel like I should really, try to do something about my dislike for the character, and there just doesn't seem to be a better spot to pick it up than when it relaunches. So,
well, you do know he's 13. He has a reason for being small. He's not like Anna Maria.
He's 14 now.
Oh.
They skipped a year.
Yeah, because they skipped a year at, like, issue 23 or something.
Yep.
But it's like... I mean, I don't necessarily dislike the character. It's just I cannot get invested in him to save my life. So I'm going to pick this book up because I honestly really want to try, and maybe by buying a monthly title, with him as the titular character or whatever, maybe then I can actually get into the character a little bit more. I tried reading Ultimate Comics Spider-Man. it didn't work for me. It just really didn't. So maybe this series can help me. But Ultimate 200, it sounds, it says the world mourns on the anniversary of Peter Parker's death. That could be interesting. This sounds like an interesting issue, but I'm not sure I'm going to pick it up. I'll be quite honest with you.
I am definitely going to try to pick it up, mostly because the biggest surprise endings of the year, it sounds different, and I know a lot of people were actually speculating that it's probably Norman Osborn. I sincerely doubt it, because all the hints that Bendis has been giving is the fact that, I'm gonna bring Norman Osborn in, don't worry. So it just seems too blatant for him to be like, it's surprising. I think that we're going to see, basically, at the end of the issue, we're going to see Spider-Man in his regular costume, like the red and blue costume, and him unmask himself in front of Miles Morales and be like, I'm Spider-Man, and it's Peter Parker. And then that's going to be a huge, shocking ending, and then we're going to figure out that it's actually just his clone, his Scorpion clone that was left awake after the Clone Saga, and him thinking that he's actually Peter Parker.
See, I would think that would piss a lot of fans off if they did that.
Maybe that's the point. Yeah, everybody knows that Marvel just does that because, the best way to actually sell titles, apparently, is to piss the fan base off.
Dan Slott's rule of marketing.
Exactly. That's the best way to get a whole bunch of sales, is to just piss the general fan base that actually buys your titles off.
See, I don't think that Marvel is... I don't think Marvel is out to just piss off Spider-Man fans. Ultimately, I think they're just out to boost sales, and so...
I think this will definitely boost sales, in particular because it's right before the movie. This will debut in April, and if they bring Peter Parker back, particularly one that's closer to the version that's seen in the movie because he's a teenager, I definitely think it'd be interesting to see. And then what they did with Gwen Stacy in the Ultimate Universe is basically clone her, and then they don't reference her death at all. And so maybe it'll be a little bit of a
because
thing,
it's the
but
real
I
Gwen.
think it's not the real Gwen.
I remember, if I remember right, and when they read the issue where they scan her body, after everything that happened with War of the Symbiotes, somebody says she has no traces of a clone in her. This is the real Gwen. Carnage kept her alive.
Yeah, what they say is that basically Carnage absorbed her essence and everything, and then after Venom basically absorbed Carnage into himself, it was left with the carbon copy of Gwen with the same memories and everything. So it was really actually a clone, but it's still Gwen. And so they got past the dead means dead thing by doing that, and just kind of being like, never referencing her death again. Besides the whole fact that, I was dead for a little while. Well, boo-hoo. And then you have Peter Parker, and I think they'll reference his death, but I think he'll actually continue to be Peter Parker. And then that way they can actually make a new series that's focused around Peter Parker and make a whole bunch of money off of that because of the new movie.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that is I can't see Aunt May, Gwen, Mary Jane, dealing with Peter's clone taking over his life. And he's dead.
I actually could, because if they give him the same memories, it'll basically be like what happened with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, but it's gonna be like there was a movie a few years out in the movie theaters called Astro Boy, and the guy rebuilds his dead son as a robot. And then the running joke I kept on telling my friend in the movie theater, whispering him, meanwhile, his real son is still dead. And if I'm reading that, I'll be thinking that with Peter the whole time. Is that meanwhile, while Aunt May is hugging this guy, the real Peter is dead in a grave somewhere.
I think that we should have been thinking about that with Gwen as well, because her body was actually buried, and she did die. But nobody really thinks about that either. So, it's particularly in the Ultimate Universe where everything's all messed up, and Marvel, it's become almost as convoluted as the Marvel Universe itself now.
Which is funny,
after 10 years. That's what it was trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that it won't be that hard to believe at this point, particularly after Gwen. So I really hope that this happens, actually. I really, really do, because I definitely want to read more adventures of Ultimate Peter, even if they have to do this weird, convoluted stuff to bring him back.
I don't know how I would feel about this, honestly. I'm kind of with James on this one, as I really don't think it would work. I really don't.
I don't know. Bendis is a great writer, so if anyone could pull it off, as of right now, I definitely think it'd be him.
We'll just have to wait and see. We really just will have to wait and see. You said this issue comes out in April?
Yeah.
All right. So, man, April's going to be a big month for Spider-Man.
Yeah, it is.
We got the end of Superior, the beginning of Amazing, and Ultimate 200. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
And plus, Amazing Spider-Man 2 comes out in the UK in April.
Yeah. Lucky bastards.
Yeah, they get it 2 weeks before us. So it's going to be 2 weeks of spoiler dodging.
Yeah. You'll go on there. It'll be like when I was trying to avoid spoilers for Iron Man 3. They're like, "There's a huge twist," and I'm like, "I can't help myself. Gotta click on it." And then they're like, "The Mandarin actually turns out to be Aldrich Killian," and it was like the Star Wars Episode 3 scene with Darth Vader at the end.
I am the Mandarin.
Yeah.
No!
It's like, I hate that. Where you go on to something and you think it's going to be spoiler free. Like I think, like let's say I'm on CBR and the new Iron Man, like you said, movie came out. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to go see the movie opening day. I might have to go this day later or a week later, or whatever. So I want to avoid spoilers until I can go see the movie as best I can. So I try to stay away from movie Fred topics. And then you're on completely random things. I can be on Batman's thing for the forum. Somebody could be on with the new issue of Batman. They go, yeah, that reminds me of in Iron Man 3 when you reveal that Mandarin's not really Mandarin.
Oh yeah. They were talking about it with Batman because there was this one guy complaining about The Dark Knight Rises, and then one guy goes on there and says, "At least it's not as bad as Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin plot twist where the white guy actually turns out to be the Mandarin."
I'm an actor.
I was sitting there and I'm like, "Are you serious? Are you flippin' serious? I didn't even go on the Avengers. I didn't do that. I went on the DC forums, and it spoils the movie for me."
Yep. See, that's why I went to see Iron Man 3 opening day.
I did go see it opening day, but it was a bunch of England people that got it like a week early that spoiled it.
Oh, see, I wasn't going on message boards at that point, so yeah, but I still like Iron Man 3. I still do.
I liked it. I really wanted to avoid that spoiler.
Yeah, I wasn't spoiled for that, so you know.
I really wanted to be shocked in the movie theater. I wanted to be like, "Oh my god, he actually turned out to be a fake!" And then there were a whole bunch of people that were like, "I nearly got up and left. I seriously nearly got up and left." I'm like, seriously? I honestly think the movie probably would have been better if they'd just given us the movie they'd advertised in the first place, but it was still a pretty good movie, so.
Yeah. So ultimately, we don't really have much else to say about Ultimate Spider-Man 200. It's gonna happen. You know, it'll be interesting to see what's gonna happen with it, and that's pretty much it. So, you know, we're done with news topics now, and we're about 40 minutes into the show. But we do I actually have something I'd like to do is, I don't know if anyone here remembers this, but, I did a solo show about a month and a half ago, and, that was absolute torture. I'm never doing that again. Never doing that again. Or at least without a drink to help me get through that, because I'm never doing that again. But, during that show, I tried to introduce a new segment of retro reviews, just reviews of old Spider-Man issues. Well, not necessarily old Spider-Man issues, but you know, older Spider-Man issues. I guess they aren't issues that are completely current. And anyone who knows me knows that I do still like to talk about the comics that were released in 1962. So obviously, you know, it's only fitting that I talk about some here on the podcast. You know, I do those retro Amazing Spider-Man reviews on the site. You know, I just put up a review of Amazing 50 last night. And so I figured, hey, why not do them on the podcast as well? So today I'm just going to do a quick retro review of Amazing Spider-Man #1 because I figured that Amazing Spider-Man #1 is probably the best place to start this segment. So, Amazing Spider-Man #1, I'm going to break it apart into the two stories that it contains, the whole John Jameson shuttle plot and the Chameleon plot. So, starting with the John Jameson shuttle plot, basically we have Peter reminiscing on the events of Amazing Fantasy 15 and how crap his life is. He tries to figure out how he can make more money and decides to go back into show business. However, J. Jonah Jameson writes an editorial against him that basically destroys his reputation and prevents him from doing show business ever again. Desperate for cash and out on his luck, Peter one day decides to go see the shuttle launching because he has nothing better to do. That shuttle launching does not go as planned, and it sort of goes out of control. Peter changes into Spider-Man and saves John Jameson, the shuttle's pilot, and he manages to get them both safely to the ground, and he thinks, oh, well, this will restore my reputation, and ultimately, it doesn't. It ultimately actually makes it worse because J. Jonah Jameson manages to convince the public that Spider-Man was behind the whole thing. And so he wonders so that part of the issue ends with him wondering, what am I supposed to do, basically. Overall, for this little part of the issue here, I'm going to give it a B+. I quite enjoyed this story quite a bit. It honestly had me hooked from the beginning because ultimately this is a character that I felt was very interesting from the start. Seeing him struggle with all of these troubles, money, friends, academics, not academics, but money, popularity, social events, all of this stuff, it was very interesting to me, and I've always been interested in that part of Spider-Man. It's been one of my favorite aspects to the character. And so ultimately, the fact that the issue started with 2 pages of him just basically reminiscing on that, it really was, if you didn't read Amazing Fantasy 15, it helped catch you up to the character a bit, but it also really did well at providing a strong introduction to the character in his first big issue. So I felt that was pretty well done. Obviously, he goes back into show business, and probably my favorite little bit of the issue here was that he tries to cash a check as Spider-Man, but the bank won't take it because anyone can dress up in a Spider-Man suit. So ultimately, sorry, I had something in my throat there. But so ultimately, it was pretty freaking awesome that they wouldn't take it because ultimately, anyone could dress up in a Spider-Man costume. So I felt that was pretty good. The introduction of J. Jonah Jameson was fairly strong, fairly solid. Of course, we had Aunt May pawning her jewelry. Sorry, my mind is just literally blanked. Yeah, we had Aunt May pawning her jewelry, which I felt was a nice little bit of character because she's trying not to let Peter know exactly what kind of dire situation they're in with money. I definitely do feel that was strong. But the one thing I want to point out about this is the art in this issue is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, Ditko is one of my favorite artists on Spider-Man, and honestly, there's one panel in this issue that really does stick out to me, and that is the final panel on page number 6, which is Peter basically smashing his fist against a wall in a rage, and it's just so well drawn and so well done. The effect when he hits the wall is just absolutely outstanding, and ultimately you really do get a sense of how much anger and frustration Peter was really feeling here. The whole shuttle plot, I didn't really find it to be too special. I felt it was good. It was entertaining enough. I like the line from the pilot that I'll probably be grounded forever for doing this Spider-Man, but I got a hunch that if anyone can save that poor Joker, you're the guy. I did like that line. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And it was good to see Spider-Man kind of thinking on his feet a bit, trying to figure out, how to save John Jameson, and that was good. Ultimately, it wasn't too special of a plot, but it was solid enough. And then, of course, in classic JJ style, he manages to turn the entire thing against Spider-Man. That was pretty decent, and I liked that a lot. Overall, I'm giving this part of the issue a B+. I quite enjoyed it quite a bit. Unfortunately, James had to leave us before the show ended, So he's not here anymore. He's here on Earth. Don't worry, he's alive, hopefully. But Thomas, we will. I'm hoping you've read this issue. Do you have any particular thoughts on this part of the issue here?
I did. I had read this issue, but it was a while ago, so I don't really remember too much of it, to be completely honest. But I do remember that it is really defining how Steve Ditko drew Spider-Man. It basically showed how every other artist is going to draw Spider-Man from here on out. Mark Bagley is actually my favorite Spider-Man artist to ever work on the title, but Steve Ditko is definitely the definitive Spider-Man artist, and it really shows throughout his 38 issues on The Amazing Spider-Man how he basically created this character and how his image of Spider-Man is going to define not only the movies, but every other form of media that Spider-Man appears in.
I definitely agree with you there. Steve Ditko is legendary for basically creating the look of the Spider-Man universe. He really did a lot to sort of build on this universe and really create it from the ground up. I mean, Stan Lee, he and Lee together sort of came up with the ideas and everything. Ditko brought them to life through drawing, and Lee brought them to life through story. So, ultimately, I felt that was good. Overall, I just liked that. I liked that little segment of the issue, that half of the issue. I felt it was a solid story. And so I'm going to give that part of the issue a B+. And so, the other story in Amazing Spider-Man #1 is Spider-Man vs. the Chameleon, which is the first appearance of the Chameleon and the first big bad supervillain that Spider-Man will ever fight in his career. And the basic plot of this issue is, down on his luck for money and everything, Peter goes to the Fantastic Four to try to get them to recruit him to their team. Ultimately, Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four have a bit of a falling out, and Spider-Man runs away because he just doesn't want to be associated with them because they clearly just aren't his type of people, apparently. And so, meanwhile, the Chameleon is stealing some missile plans. He's stealing some missile plans from the military, and ultimately he decides to frame it on Spider-Man, so he tricks Spider-Man into coming to a rooftop where he committed the theft, only he left in his Spider-Man disguise seconds earlier before the police got there, and Spider-Man the real Spider-Man happened to arrive just at that time, so they believed the real Spider-Man to be the one who took the missile plans. So ultimately, the real Spider-Man goes after the fake Spider-Man. They manage to bring him in, and they get the missile defense plans back, and pretty much everyone lives happily ever after, except for Spider-Man, who goes off sopping. Overall, I'm going to give this part of the issue an A-. I really did enjoy this story quite a bit. Once again, the art was on top form. We got to see the Fantastic Four in this issue, which I felt was a fairly strongly drawn sequence. It was definitely well drawn. It was well written. I enjoyed the little fight between Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. We got a little sense of each of the Fantastic Four's abilities, but we also saw how they matched up against Spider-Man, which is always fun to see. The Chameleon's never been my favorite Spider-Man villain. He's not even in my top 10. I wouldn't consider him the best villain to ever be in a Spider-Man comic book. But you know what? For a first villain and for his first appearance, he's decent enough. He did a decent enough job, and ultimately I felt that he fulfilled the role that he should have in this issue, and the plot ultimately just went as I felt it should have. The one thing that really did kind of make me raise an eyebrow in this issue is that the Chameleon was able to contact Spider-Man through his spider sense, which is always a concept that I've found to be very interesting. I've never really found it to be a sort of radio transmission sort of sense to it, but, if that's what Stan Lee was sort of going at with this, then, you know what, I can accept that. But it's always just been a little bit strange to me, because that was never something that I knew growing up. So, obviously, that was a little bit of raise an eyebrow moment for me. But ultimately, the issue was good enough. I gave it an A-. If I were to give this overall issue a grade, I'd give it probably a B+ for both stories combined. So, Amazing Spider-Man #1, B+, solid issue, and I really enjoyed it. So, Thomas, any other thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man #1?
Yeah, with the second show, not the show, the second part of the issue, I definitely thought it was stronger than the first part, whereas I felt the first part was just kind of, out there. The second part basically was a well-written story, and I think it also shows that it is always better when you have one writer writing all these characters, because he writes them consistent across the board. You see the Fantastic Four the same way you would if you were reading a Fantastic Four story that Stan Lee also wrote. And so it makes it a lot easier to be able to see these characters interact because they just exist in the same universe, which again is a little was kind of new for the time period, kind of like how Marvel is doing their universe stuff, is just the same kind of spirit that Stan Lee had to make sure that they all sound the same and they look the same and they talk the same and they have the same personalities. And I feel like that's something that's missing right now, particularly with Superior Spider-Man with Dan Slott. He's writing these characters very different than I think that they should be, in order to fulfill his story, which is, I've shared my opinion on that plenty of times, but I feel like this really shows off the strength of having one writer on all these characters. And then again, Steve Ditko being the definitive Spider-Man artist. And Chameleon, he's not my favorite villain either. I don't even really like him that much, but he does fulfill the point that he had in the issue, I agree. And I think that it also helps get across why Spider-Man has a bad image with the public. And this issue was basically about establishing that Spider-Man has bad public presence, that people don't really like him. And I feel like that was the whole point of this issue. And that it fulfilled it very well in two separate stories that really work well together. So for me, it's actually going to probably be an A-. So.
Yep, so this is a pretty highly regarded issue across the board for us here. I wish we still had James on the line so he could give us his opinion on this issue. But, ultimately, a good solid start to the Amazing Spider-Man series. Again, I wanted to do this review partially because, I do still like to talk about the comics that were released in the 1960s. But also, I wanted to bring a bit of positivity to this show because I've been listening back to some of the recent episodes that we've done, and we've been pretty negative. So I figured maybe if we found something that we could, that we could all be happy about, we could try to be a little bit more positive on this show. So, but ultimately, this really was a good issue. It was a solid issue. And ultimately, I don't really have much else to say about it. So, B+ from me, A- from Thomas. So, with that, that's going to end this week's retro review. Hopefully, I'm going to start doing these weekly. Don't hold me to that, but hopefully, I will start doing these on a weekly basis. They're not necessarily going to go, in order, so I'm not necessarily going to do every issue of Amazing or whatever. I'm probably just going to do whatever comic I feel like talking about that particular week. But ultimately, I felt that as a start, it would be good to start with Amazing #1. So, so that's pretty much going to do it for this episode of the SpiderNerd podcast. So, I would ask James to say goodbye to the listeners, but he had to leave suddenly. So, James said goodbye to the listeners through the Skype text window. So, Thomas, why don't you say goodbye to the listeners?
All right. I would like to start off by saying thanks for, joining us. I've had a little bit of a rough week. I had to put my dog to sleep last weekend. That's why I wasn't with you guys. But it's good to try to return to normalcy after that. And I really appreciate being on the show. And I really appreciate a lot of other things that I took for granted before. And so thanks for having me on, and thanks for listening.
No problem. We enjoy having you on this show. And it's always and speaking of dogs, my dog is sick today. Legitimately, he's throwing up. He's moving slowly. And he's not that old. He's only 6 years old. But we think My dad might have fed him something bad, but yeah, but my dog's been getting sick a lot this past month, so unfortunately that is a little bit of a problem. Yeah, this is honestly, this podcast, I gotta say, this podcast is probably the best part of my week. I look forward to this every week. I really do. I love talking Spider-Man with my bros. I love talking Spider-Man. But my final words for the listeners are, keep checking out the site, SpiderNerd.com. We got some cool stuff coming up there. And, of course, keep listening to the show. I noticed this week that we don't have any ratings or reviews on iTunes yet. So if you like the show, or even if you don't like the show, let us know in the comments on iTunes. Leave us an iTunes review. Good or bad, we'll take it to heart, and we'll see what we can do. If you don't like something, we'll see what we can do to change it. But ultimately, we will. Obviously, we can't make everyone happy, but if you don't like something, tell us what you don't like and tell us why, and we'll try to do better. So, and if you like the show, we'll keep doing what we're doing. So ultimately, just leave us comments, and we'd appreciate that very much. Other than that, this is going to be the Spider Nerd Podcast, episode 19, signing off.